Hello friends, Lee here from TableTop Bong. Thanks for joining me. In this video, I thought we would hang out, have a fun sesh, and talk about past lives. I thought we would talk about a couple of different aspects of past lives. Number one, I think we have to start with, are past lives hooey, or is it actually true? That's number one. And number two, if it is true, is it possible for us to access them? So I thought that's what we could talk about today. I would offer you a hypnotist's perspective. I have definitely trained in this particular field of hypnosis. It was part of a high-level hypnosis training course that I was doing, and it was super intriguing. I had the opportunity to, one, be hypnotized myself and to be guided into a space that was being explained as past lives. And I also had the opportunity to hypnotize a number of people, 7 or 8 people in my class, to guide them through this experience as well. It's probably not something I would have found myself diving too far into if it hadn't have been for this particular training that I was doing. It was certainly very intriguing, and there were some things that came out of it that I would call commonalities that I did see through the different hypnosis sessions, and my own as well, that I wasn't seeing in other styles of hypnosis sessions. So I thought we could just, have a couple of bowls and talk about this kind of stuff. Let me just say this before we go too far into it. Do I know for sure what was happening in this time? I do not. I went into this past life regression training with an awful lot of questions about past lives because, number one, I hadn't given it a massive amount of thought at this point, so I hadn't really done any investigation into it. I just thought, yeah, okay, that's cool. It's part of the program that I'm doing, and I wanted to really reach what I was what's called mastery level of hypnosis. So that was the program that I had taken, was mastery level. I had already trained myself for a number of years in hypnosis and had a lot of experience actually hypnotizing people long before I did any of this official training. So what I wanted to do was to take knowledge that I had gained over years and knowledge that I had gained through experience, and I wanted to go into a classroom setting and take it to the next level. So when this past life regression training was part of it, I was like, this is going to be cool, man. This is going to be cool. So I can't wait to hypnotize some people and see what happens. Having had a lot of experience going into this training, I also had trained myself to go into trance very, very easily because, if you can reach a certain level of trance and you know how to do self-hypnosis, which I had also taught myself by this point in time, if you can understand how to do that, you can be a really good aid to somebody who wants to teach hypnosis because you can drop yourself right into that space and then they just deepen you a little bit and, you're trance ready for whatever it is they want to demonstrate. So I was lucky enough to be the person who, in this particular training, that the instructor chose to use as the subject, and it was a very, very cool experience. What I will say for sure about the experience, I've been hypnotized many times, one by myself and two by that instructor. I took a number of courses to achieve the mastery level, and throughout all of those courses, once the teacher understood how easily I could go into trance, the instructor then continued to use me over and over and over. So I had a lot of great experience in trance through that program. So I understand from one aspect of being hypnotized to another. There is a bit of a different feeling that goes along with it. And when we were doing past life work, it definitely did feel like a little bit of a different feeling. Now, we should probably have a dab at least, right? I'm going to rip on my pockety here with my TableTop Bong with a 5-arm tree in it. I'm using a Purple Heart TableTop Bong today. Going to rip some big dabs of hash rosin at about just under 500 degrees Fahrenheit with my pockety. Going to use a water pipe adapter and just run it right into the TableTop Bong for some big clouds. Happy Friday. It's Friday on the day of recording this video, so I am definitely going to hit this like it's Friday night. That's for sure. Okay, so Number one, what's different about past life regression work than regular hypnosis? You need to take the person into a very, oh, we're ready. Cheers. Oh yeah, that's delicious. I can really rip on this pockety. This huge 5D XXL chamber is awesome. That's it for that tab. So number one, when there are different levels of trance that a person can be taken into, when you're doing past life work, the goal is to take them basically to what is deemed coma level. Okay, so you're looking for a super, super deep trance. Way back in the day, before modern medicine and having the ability to put people under for surgeries and stuff like that, it actually was people who did hypnosis who would put people into a coma level trance before surgery and hold them in that state. I know many of you probably didn't know that. I didn't know that before I did the hypnosis training. I just thought that was pretty interesting stuff. So number one, you have, like I said, you have to go into this deep coma level. And then, of course, you're going to use visualizations. And this is where it all gets tricky. Because when you hypnotize a person, and as the hypnotist, you're going to use, of course, all kinds of visualizations. That's how you get the person to relax more. That's how you get them to deepen their own trance. Of course, as the hypnotist, you understand the person's doing all of this to themselves. You're guiding them into the space in their mind where they can allow themselves to hypnotize deeper. So here's an example, for instance. When I have somebody in a trance and I want to take them, down into a deeper level of trance, you can use multiple different styles of visualizations. You can say something like, you're getting into an elevator and you're going down. So you're on floor 10 and you're now on floor 9, on floor 8, and each floor you go down, you're deepening your own trance. You can say things like that, or you can say things like, as you listen to my voice and you're floating on a white, fluffy cloud. With each breath, you become more relaxed and that cloud becomes more and more comfortable. Of course, the person is not sitting on a cloud, right? We know that they're not sitting on a cloud. So their mind makes all of these adjustments to make these visualizations work for the situation. And that's part of how the hypnosis works, is because their mind is very busy, doing this kind of work, but there's no threat to it, right? When you're saying floating on a cloud, the mind just needs to convert that into what's actually happening or not. It can stay in this fantasy, whatever, and it helps to just relax everything, right? So when you're in that place, the brain is filling in to make things that aren't true real enough to follow along. So then when I guide a person into a place where, for instance, let's say I use a hallway with different doors as an opportunity for them to access past lives. And I suggest to them that they're standing at, the opening of a hallway that has multiple doors on each side. And as they walk through, they'll see one door begin to glow. And as they step up to that door and begin to open it, they'll be opening it into a past life. So as you're doing something like that with the person, right, is their brain filling it in, or is it real? This is the thing about it. There's no real way to know. And it's such an intriguing thing to me, because I've seen a number of people go into that space and I've gone into it myself. Not just that, but I mean, honestly, I think, when you introduce the fact that a couple of years ago there, I had a near-death experience, and I did experience what it felt like to be between life and death, at least for a period of time, or somewhere very close to it, if nothing else. Which also left me with a number of questions, right? So I just find all of this very intriguing. But I know there's definitely no way to know for sure. Now, what I can also say, when a person has been in this trance state and they're accessing past lives, when they talk about the life that they're in the moment of trance, and they're explaining it, once they go through and they access the space that, of course, they would call a past life, or that we're calling a past life at the time. Once they enter that space, as the hypnotist, you really should not direct at all. So what you should be doing is asking questions, but very open questions, not directing questions. Things like, what do you see around you right now? Things like that. And then they explain the entire scene, and then you can ask specific things about what's being explained so that you're not guiding the person in any way. So what I find very, very intriguing about this is when people are back in time in the visualization that they're explaining at this time, things always seem to be period appropriate. They're not talking about using a cell phone in Victorian times. And often people will talk about things that they don't know anything about in their regular life. So between those two things, I find it to be a really intriguing thing. What is it that's actually going on when they're in that space? I know when I was in that space, and I did go back in time and have what was, I guess, being explained as a past life hallucination at the time. I could see things very vividly. Everything did feel exactly of the period and did feel proper. Was there a person there that I did recognize? Yes, there was one person in the scene that clearly from that scene, I would imagine, is somebody that, if that was true, has been around me in multiple lifetimes or something, because they're in my life now. But now, is that because they're in my life now, they were in the visualization? Who knows, right? And this is where it gets really intriguing. We have to be open to the possibility. And I think the second we think we know exactly what is happening, I think that's when maybe we're in trouble, because that means we've closed off to any other possibility about what is happening. I really think it's important when we're in conversations about things like this that we don't accept anything as definitive. We can believe things, and things can feel the most correct to us. But what I learned through this process, and this is something that I think is really important to talk about, cheers. I have a way of typing that just right, don't I? Oh, that's delicious hash rosin. Here's what I would say I believe to be the most important thing about everything I learned in going through the past life regression experience, from both being the hypnotist and being the person hypnotized. Here's what I can tell you I think is really important. We have no idea what's going on. Okay, we have absolutely no idea. But what every person who entered that space came out of it with was some kind of healing information or feeling that they were unable to access in other ways. And myself included, I came away with an understanding that I had seeked many, many times before and had never become close to. And I left, being taken into that space, into that hallucination, illusion, whatever it is. I came out of there with an understanding that I truly needed. And every single person that I took into that space came out with healing information that they didn't go in looking for. And that's what I found really intriguing about this whole thing. So you take people into this hallucination, illusion, reality, whatever you want to call it. And they experience things that are of the past, and everything is perfectly of the time period when they're discussing it and talking about it. And then they access a deep healing piece of information and come back and have a true and complete understanding about what that piece of information is. And they may not remember anything else about the session, but they come away with the lesson and it's clear no matter what state they're in. When you've been hypnotized into a coma level, there is very, very little recall that happens. And that's why when I was in the training and I was being the subject for the hypnotist to instruct, it had to be recorded so I could watch it back so I didn't miss the information, because I was deeply, deeply hypnotized. And I had virtually no recognition, with the exception of one or two small details. But those were the details that led to the understanding that was firmly lodged in my conscious awareness now versus my subconscious. I don't know what it was in between that brought that forward, and I can't explain exactly what it is. But I do know that that is a commonality that I have seen over and over and over in past life regression, during that training. I found it to be very, very intriguing and a whole lot of fun, and definitely super cool to consider, right? For whatever it's worth. It's certainly a fun conversation to say, what do you think? Do you think it's possible? Or do you think it's all illusions that are just created in the mind? All right, my friends, I just thought it'd be fun to have a good session, talk that one out, and see what you guys think. Drop a comment. Let me know. What do you think? Past lives. Is it real? Is it not real? Can we access it? I'd love to hear what you think. Drop it in the comments. All right, my friends, thanks very much. Until next time, take care.